Welcome to the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Overreaction Sports Network. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. That guy right there sitting next to me is the namesake of the show. His name is the title. He is the John Fina of the Off Tackle, former Buffalo Bill, former offensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills for 10 years, John Fina. Please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this vidcast on. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're listening to this in post as a podcast in audio form on all of the, I don't even know how you would say that. We're on all the channels, all the platforms. So if you're listening on one of them, please like, please subscribe, please help get our numbers up. It is so good to have every single one of you joining us in the comments right now. Happy Victory Monday one more time to you. John, you were in Buffalo this week.
I was in Buffalo. Holy smokes. How great was it to be back in Buffalo, man? I can't even describe it. I was also there with my son, Bruno, who everybody who listens to this show knows that Bruno plays at Duke, and just got a chance to bring him to a game. He hasn't been to one for 8 years now, right? Because schedules, the lineup, the timing, and we got to take him to tailgating, got him beef on weck. We met up with you
Chicken
with beef
wings.
on weck and chicken wings, and we got some pizza, and he was just overwhelmed. He loved the fact that everywhere he went in Buffalo, everybody's wearing Bills gear. He's like, this is just awesome. You know, playing in LA, you don't get that. So
yeah, I think I heard him say that everywhere I go, also the food is good. Like everywhere I go, there's good food. Super good kid, super bright kid. Just a very polite young man. It was an honor to get the opportunity to hang out with him for a couple of minutes. What were his impressions? You guys were up in the fishbowl, so you were protected from. Well, I guess let's start with the tailgate. What were his general thoughts of the tailgate, and then we'll move to the game, and then we'll get into some film breakdown.
Well, he just like me, you play and you play and you play, and you realize at one point you're like, I've never been to a tailgate. Like I've never been to a tailgate. And I'm like, well, you're in for it. You're gonna be floored. I mean, there's 70,000 people in the stadium, and there's 170,000 people outside the stadium.
Seems like it.
It does. And he was just absolutely fascinated just by the throngs of people were just everywhere, and people just singing, hey, and
right.
Go Bills everywhere. We got to meet, some pretty fun people that I know. I didn't get to see everybody, and, I feel bad about that sometimes, but there's so little time, and he just loved it. The food, the drink, and it was snowing.
Yes.
We were at the Red Zone tailgate, John McCulloch, and
it was 22. It was 22 degrees, and there were still 100 and something thousand people outside, all partying and having a good time with each other, which was absolutely insane. Now the game experience. There was a lot of action in your side of the field, which your side is my side of the field. You have a little bit of a different view than I have. But what was his? What do you think of the game? The crowd, the atmosphere, the play, all that stuff.
Well, we were fortunate to have tickets in the M&T suite. And Bruno was like, I don't want to sit in a suite, and I think he thought it was going to be like 20 people. Well, there's about 350, 400 people in there, and it's almost like 4-star food and beverage.
Right.
And I got to bring my cousin and his son, so Bruno's cousin, second cousin, and he was like, okay, this isn't what I expected. I could do this every time. The game experience is completely different. I don't like to be cold. I said my blood is about as thin as vodka now that I live out in Arizona. So you lose you lose a lot of the excitement of being with the crowd, the weather, the sound. So I think, maybe in September we'll come for one of those games. So he really enjoyed it. The vantage point is great because he's an offensive lineman, and when you're looking through the end zone, you see everything as it develops, and he was blown away by just how quick and how fast everything moves. And I mean, the players are just even from that high up, they're
Yeah.
just giants. They're
Yeah.
titans.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was a fun weekend all the way around for sure. So I was glad that you were able to be here. I was glad that Bruno was able to come, and that you guys were here to be a part of this big dub against the Baltimore Ravens that so many pundits and so many people said was borderline impossibility. Before the game, when I was waiting to leave to the tailgate, when we were trying to coordinate, I had on a couple just different sports shows, and they were going back and forth between like who has the advantage. Wide receivers, Baltimore or Buffalo, defensive ends, Baltimore or Buffalo, like all those things. It was like Baltimore across the board, except for quarterback that was tied. Yeah.
Really? They gave it to him on receivers too, huh?
Yeah. So one of them did. The other one, I think, had the Bills, but it wasn't by much. I think they gave it to Baltimore because it's like, well, we're gonna lump the tight ends in here as pass catchers, so we're gonna give the advantage. It was NFL Network. We're gonna give the advantage to Buffalo or to Baltimore. That's like that's a little lame, but anyway. So, the national championship is on right now, so we don't want to keep people away from that too long, including you and I, because we have since paused the games to do this live broadcast. So why don't we jump right into it and get to your first video?
Yeah, we'll do videos, and I got some commentary on the game too. I know we want to get going, but so the first video I'm going to bring up is Ray Davis's touchdown, and I think chose this video because number one, I love seeing Deion Dawkins almost outside the numbers.
Holy smokes! You can drive a truck through that hole.
Yeah, get used to it, because if you haven't been paying attention, that guy likes to get a split. I just love it. So we're just running true inside zone here. I'm going to run the play, but watch what Dawson, or I think that's Kincaid and Shakir, the blocks that they pick up, and what makes these special is just the amount of movement. So keep your eyes to the right of the screen, and I can't tell. I think that's Knox.
It is.
We're going to run. Yeah, we're going to run inside zone, which means Spencer Brown is going to duo up with with the guard, losing his name. Not tired Joe. They're gonna deuce up, and then Dawson has got to collapse on this guy who hits the gap. Coming right now, he's got him outflanked at the snap. He picks him up and he drives him. But the beautiful thing what Shakir does here is he's angling toward the inside shoulder. And that's super important, because you got to make sure that you get that inside shoulder, because if you don't, he can still knife in and leverage you. So he makes his way to that inside shoulder, and he's actually able to turn him. It just creates enough of a seam for Ray Davis to get through. Yeah. And I chose that play because I historically, admittedly, have given receivers and tight ends a very, very hard time about the quality of their blocking on this show. I am not shy about it. And I'll say, between Mac Hollins, Shakir, and our tight ends, they've been doing an incredible job on the edge. Great play. That was our first touchdown, quarter one, first drive response, which was absolutely fantastic.
Roll that back real quick, because David Edwards, it looks like, is signaling Mac Hollins or somebody to come across to start their motion at the very same time, which was odd to me. Why is David Edwards signaling the motion on the wide receiver?
I think he's looking at the play clock.
Oh, gotcha.
So he's like, let's go, let's go.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
We don't have the play clock here, but that'd be my best guess. And of course, as soon as you start doing that, you get a little bit distracted, and he has a hard time fitting into his block. He's got him inside out and bumps him, but I'm sure if he wasn't waving to bring the motion across, he might have seen that threat come through the B gap a little bit quicker.
Right. Let's do one more, and then you can tell us some of your game thoughts, and then we'll do the last two that you have. Does that work?
Yeah, that works great. Okay, the next one is still quarter one, and it's I think I talked to myself about this because I didn't have the platform to talk about it. But how we were going to stop Baltimore was we had to keep the big guy from getting ahead of steam. Yeah. And we did it with a variety of looks. We did it from regular, we did it from nickel, but we brought pressure. And from a guy who thought Demar Hamlin meant never see the field again after basically losing his life, I root for the guy. And this play was incredible. So they're disguising Demar Hamlin's intent here by having him off the ball by about 4 yards. Keep your eye on Demar Hamlin on the left side of your screen. Everybody moves. He slides over. He's unaccounted for. tackle for a loss.
It kind of dips behind the offensive line, almost kind of sneaks behind the offensive line.
That's right, because he walks up to the line so late that the center guard and the slot guy, who they're running basically split zone, but the tackle who's locked on to Rousseau here should have seen Demar coming. Okay, let's back it up. All right, so now Demar is creeping. He's creeping. Now he's there. Okay, that's a mental error by Rosengarten. He should have seen Demar Hamlin coming. He should have bounced out there, but he knifes in. Another beautiful thing about this play, look at Ed Oliver. So they're plus blocking this, Joe. They should be plus blocking it, which means the inside three are going to be picking up Milano and more or less Rasul Douglas. So they're adding to the play side. Ed Oliver actually, at the beginning of this play, doesn't do a great job. He kind of gets cut off. But when he feels the tackle on him, watch him explode and drive the left tackle into the play. Right there. Has him stood up.
Yep.
So this gives Demar Hamlin time to cross the formation, because right here, there's Ed Oliver just literally picking up the left tackle and depositing him a yard deep. And then you got Smoot at the edge.
What was the expectation on the left tackle? So you've got the one guy on the left side of the screen who's on the end, who's pulling back to his left, our right. And then you've got the tackle who's pulling from the right to the left. And that's when Ed catches him and almost surprises him. Like, what are you doing hitting me? Like,
no, so he's the left tackle is trying to cut Ed Oliver off. But the problem is he's too high. And it's either the footing, it's too slick, so he doesn't want to get too low and blow his groin out. But this is the play. They want to take Ed Oliver up, and then the tight end is going to come across the formation to kick out Smoot, right? They don't have a bad play designed right here, but they didn't account for Demar Hamlin with the right tackle, and they didn't account for Ed Oliver getting a deep push on the left tackle.
Got it. So great individual effort is what you're talking about.
Great individual effort, and then Smoot's there to clean it up at the end. One more time for good measure. Keep your eyes on Smoot. He sees the split zone coming, right? He plays it, collapses. Good play. I mean, and they weren't all perfect last night, sure. but it was awesome.
So when you talk about it not being all perfect, as we look back at this football game before we get to the last two that you have for us tonight, what were some of your thoughts? You did not have the opportunity to be with Jerry and I last night on the Overreaction post-game show, but I know that you listened. So yeah, just some of your thoughts, quick thoughts, overarching thoughts about the game.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously when you have weather like that, when you have a field like that, the ball is hard, it's cold, and it's slick. You want to limit the passing. You want to secure it with the run. And we've been doing so much with Reggie Gilliam and Alec Anderson and a variety of formation and plays and threats that I was thinking about this is, what's the defensive philosophy? Stop the big guy from getting ahead of steam. Huge chunk yards. Now, we gave up a lot to Justice Hill and some pretty decent runs, and his average was pretty good. But to me, that was like, if you can drug those two running backs and keep them from galloping downfield, then you put Lamar in a position to make some errors in bad weather. And I think, and then offensively, with our big package in, I just thought about the Remember the Titans movie, right? When Denzel Washington says, I run the triple option, baby. It's Novocaine. Just give it some time. And I looked at the game.
It always works.
It always works, right? Just give it some time. So I looked back at the philosophy as I sort of digest the game a little bit and try to pick apart the philosophy. And I think that was it. Like, and we don't like it. We don't like to see our defense, giving up big plays. But inside the 25s, we get stiff. And as long as we can stop the big guy from ahead of steam, it's just Novocaine. And I think you and Jerry talked about it last night. Statistically, across the board, we lost every category.
Yeah.
Except one.
Yep.
Except one. So, we mixed up the base defense, got some nickel in there. And I think it's a little bit of a risky way to game plan. But you have to have supreme confidence in your guys and in the one-on-one matchups and your game day philosophy. So that's my take on it. A little bit of Novocaine goes a long way.
I think I saw Nate Geary post on X Twitter just a little bit ago that it looks like the biggest difference between the Bills of the past and this iteration of the Bills with this current roster and this current staff is they're not afraid to fail. What do you think about that? 'Cause when I read that, I was like, that's intriguing. And there's a feeling that kind of is true, that they're going to go out there, they know who they are, and they're going to be who they are. And if they win, great. But they're going to make sure they leave who they are out there on the field.
Yeah, I don't love afraid to fail thing. I would kind of repurpose that into not afraid to have unlimited patience. So we haven't seen this offense in a very long time just say, scrap the philosophy and the playbook for this game. We're just going to start chucking it because we don't know what the hell to do. I mean, it has been unlike what we've seen from Josh Allen and our offense for 4 years now. The defense, we've seen it, right?
Yeah.
But this offense is now very, very strategic. And I mean, it's sometimes a little bit like watching slow motion, and Josh doesn't have 300 yards a game, but the only stat that matters is, the dub. The dub, baby, the dub.
Yeah, I talked about that in the aftermath today. That there was, I guess, some radio programs as well, and then some other shows that were out there that were like, well, the Ravens kind of beat themselves, so, and it's like, it's a win.
Whatever.
Enjoy the freaking W. When
the Ravens beat themselves. Look, Lamar's pass was like, that was the worst ball he threw all day.
It was a horrible throw.
I watched it twice, and I was like, what is he doing? And then, we force a couple of fumbles, by, maybe not actually punching it out, but spinning guys around. I mean, that matters. That counts. Yeah. And Marv Levy, 100 yards rushing, win the turnover battle, and you got a chance. And hell, if that strategy works, let's keep doing it, Joe.
Yeah, at least 2 more times, right? So until next year, anyway. Yeah, it was a very, very good football game. One quick question before we move on to the rest of the last 2 plays that you have to break down for us. Thoughts on Joe Brady's play calling? So there's a lot of smoke out there today that people are just they feel like it maybe wasn't his best game, that maybe the Ravens were kind of getting the better of that side of it. What were your thoughts on just the play calls in general?
Yeah, I will always second guess a Josh Allen run when it doesn't work. A couple of the design Josh Allen runs weren't really for me. I thought I'd rather have the ball in Davis's hands or Cook's hands. But beyond that, look, Derrick Henry sometimes goes for no yards or 1 yard or 2 yards, but that's part of the Novocaine for the soul. That's part of the philosophy. So you can take a pill and swallow it. All right. Wash it down with beer or water or whatever the hell you want. I mean, you can always second guess. I can go back and watch this entire game and say, geez, Joe, you should have done this. And there were a couple of bubble screens that we threw out there that, didn't end up with yardage of significance, and I think 1 for 0 or -1 was either to Knox or Kincaid.
Bad one to Knox in the third quarter. The second possession, that it turned into a punt as well, when they really needed points. But yes,
yeah, you know what? Those guys are playmakers, and we talk all the time. Get the ball into your playmakers' hands. Yeah. And you know what? Hey, Shakir's out there in space, 1-on-1. Give him the ball. He's covered in beef tallow. He spins like a top or dreidel, give the guy a chance to break a tackle and go for 5, 6, or 7. So you could second guess it because it didn't work, but
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. What? Put the ball cap on and go upstairs and start calling plays. And you're with a sheet this big, and you're gonna be like, you gotta start closing your eyes and pointing.
It'd be go routes. Go routes every play.
Every play.
Every play, go route. Everybody go long. Bobby, you're the bottle cap. Go long.
Hey, so one of the highlights of my visit was I got to visit with Aaron Cromer, the offensive line coach for the Bills, and Bruno got a chance to chat him up a little bit too. And we talked a lot of philosophy and approach to players and accentuate what they do well. Coach them up within the frame of what they do well, their body type, how they sit, everything like that. And this play is just representative of we got a hell of an offensive line.
Yeah.
And this is just a really cool switch. This is, O-line geeking out. So we're basically, before I run it, we're running power to the right. It's play action power. We're going to pull Edwards, and there's going to be a game between the nose guard and Deion Dawkins. And that's a lot of space to cover. That's about 6 yards of space between the two. And they switch this game. Just watch it and enjoy. Edwards pulls, play action, and you see McGovern and Deion switch this game. Play it one more time. And it's cool because usually when you switch a game, Joe, it's between the guy that's on Edwards and the guy that's on Deion, and they're closer together, and you don't have to cover a bunch of space. So Jerry talks a lot about vertical displacement. If one of these guys is on the wrong level vertically and the game starts to happen, then you get picks, and that's what the defense wants, and the guy gets free. So they stay in good relationship vertically here. Slam one guy into the other, switch that off. Josh makes a nice little throw right over the middle. Guys in the chat, anybody listening at the gym with your earbuds in or driving to work, love your offensive line. These guys are playing great.
Yeah, they're actually, Steve Noble just said the O-line has been the unsung hero. Before you get to the next one, Carl Tomlin actually has a comment here I want to pull up real quick. Okay. He says the coaching staff has set a game plan for each game, and they go into each game knowing what they want to do, and they stick with it. We ran for 147 yards on a Ravens team that usually only gives up 80. And it just got me to thinking as I read it, and thanks for the comment, Carl, this almost should be a weighted metric, right? When you're playing against the number one rush defense in the league that normally gives up 80 yards and you put 147 on them, while it's not 200, that's a whole lot more. That 147 seems to be more meaningful than when you put 147 or even 100 on a team that gives up 200 yards a game, right? So it was an interesting take, and I thought it was a pretty strong point that was made that I think it's getting glazed over. It's not being talked about enough how well we ran the ball against that defense, because they're a good defense.
It's not. Yeah. So, and that's another thing when people say they're criticizing or questioning Joe Brady's play calling. 147 yards on the ground. And going back to the very first analyst, Marv Levy, if he thought you needed to win the turnover battle and get 147 yards rushing, he would have said 147. But he said 100-yard rusher,
right,
rushing. And he did that because he took out the paper and the pen and reviewed games. Now you could just throw it into AI. You got analytics. You could buy the analytics. You got the guys upstairs. So Marv said, get 100, you got a chance, and win the turnover battle.
Super good, super good. Last one for us.
Okay, last play is, we talk a lot about how can we get base defense on the field and, defend against good running teams. And I want to tell you, it's not a panacea. It doesn't work every time. Gap integrity, everybody doing the right thing matters every time. And this play went for 9 or 10. It's a great play by the Ravens, but I want to show you, we play a lot of nickel. And I know a guy named Joe Miller who wants to see us play just a little bit more base D. Well, here we are.
Only against big running backs. Only against big running backs.
No, and I'm with you. And this is a big running back. And Jean-Luc Picard at fullback, that's a big hombre. So they're basically running more or less wide zone here. And this play has a chance to be a no gain. And it's because, and I pick on him a lot in a nice way, I hope, Epinesa. But Epinesa does an amazing job setting the edge here. The running back actually doesn't even go outside on top of Epinesa. He has to cut in. But the failure here is Williams and Bernard, mostly Williams. So keep your eye on Williams on the right. He bases up, I think, Mark Andrews, but then he tucks inside. That is an absolute no-no. So this is a perfect freeze. Epinesa, gap integrity, perfect, right? You got Terrell Bernard, who's getting himself into a good position. He's going to get pancaked in a second here. But Dorian Williams right now has to blow through that outside shoulder of Mark Andrews. He has to get out there and set the edge. We don't want to rely on Christian Benford and Demar Hamlin to fill this huge gap between the hash and the sideline. So keep your eyes right here on my man, Dorian Williams, who I love. But he fights him right here. You think he's a good spot, but then he loops himself back in. And look at the gap here. You get right down the line of the S and Bills from the end zone between the numbers and the hash mark. right? Thank God we're out here with Christian Benford, beats his block. Actually wasn't blocked, took a bad angle, but, we save it from being a 15 to 20-yard play, and it only becomes a 9-yard gain. Oh, what's the difference, Fina? 9, 10, 17. The difference is anytime you have a long run on offense, those 5 guys up front, they start drooling. They're like, give me more, right? 9-yard gain, that's a little bit of an appetizer. 20-yard gain on the ground, you're getting the full entree, you're getting dessert, you're drinking wine. That's the goal. So we kept them to, they had a lot of yards running too, but not these huge explosive plays that just kind of deflate you and inflate them, and they feel like they're on a roll. And look, Baltimore had a hell of a game. It was close.
Yeah,
I think the bigger story before we get out, Joe, and thanks everybody for being here and sticking in with us during the national championship game. People want to look at Lamar. They want to look at Andrews. He should have caught that ball, the 2-point conversion. But I'm still kind of wondering why Harbaugh went for 2 on the first one. And I've been mulling it around in my head. And I think what he was thinking is, statistically, at that time in the game, by the numbers, minus the turnovers, he felt like we're killing these guys, right? We're going to get the ball back 2 or 3 more times, and we're going to bury them. And I think that must have been what was going through his mind. But for the life of me, I would have kicked the extra points, the first extra point. And then it puts them in a bad position. Now they got to go for 2 to tie it. I don't know. You got a take on that real quick or what?
So I'm pulling it up as far as just to see the scoring. So that was effectively in the third quarter. At that point in time, it was 21-10. It was 21-10.
No,
they
sorry.
scored the
No. It was 21-13.
Correct.
And they
that's
got
what it was.
6.
The 2-point conversion would have tied the score 21-all.
Right.
It's more than likely versus kicking the field goal and then they're down a point. More than likely would be my guess as to what he was thinking there. Hey, to your point, I've leveraged this team in the sense of like we're doing some work against them, and their offense has gone flat. Whether you want to call it conservatism, play calling, execution, whatever you want to call it, however you want to, whatever, or the adjustments we have made have worked, which is probably where his head was at. The halftime adjustments we made on defense have slowed their offense down. 2-point conversion here gets us tied in the football game. We're no longer trailing. Is more than, and I feel safe doing that there. But Matt Milano, who Ravens fan told us would not be a factor in this football game, came through the tip.
Yeah. Well, that was on the first one, right? The second one was the drop by Andrews. Still to me, it's 21-13, right?
Yep. Eight points is 21.
It's an 8-point game there. But you're doing too much, I think, analytics wise, in looking to the future and saying, well, this is going so well, because the ball is not round, as I say on every program, and you don't know where it's going to bounce next. And guess what? It bounced out of your Hall of Fame tight end's hands.
Well, that was the last one. That was at the end of the. You're talking about the fumble. Yeah.
And it bounced out of your Hall of Fame quarterback's hands as he was scrambling, right? And your Hall of Fame quarterback threw a pick that looked like duck season.
Oh, it was bad.
It was bad. I mean, I'm appreciative, and I like Lamar as a player, but thank you very much. So, Joe, it was a great experience having my son with me in Buffalo. We absolutely had a blast.
Excellent. Any final thoughts or a look ahead to the Chiefs game coming out of this one? Thoughts of things the Bills might need to work on that the Chiefs are looking at this week?
I guess my feeling is that this game really had me a little shaken, right? I'd wake up optimistic, and by the end of the day, I was like, oh, my God, I don't know what. I feel a little bit more confident. Other than the one bad outcome we had there, we play well in Kansas City. I think we match up pretty well, easily on offense. I think we match up against their D pretty damn well. My concern, obviously, is Patrick Mahomes and his receivers and tight ends. They're doing a really fantastic job. They did a great job against the Texans when they needed to. It started off slow for them, but Andy Reid is such an amazing coach. I think, I always say it, and it's not us, but I would love to get out 10-0 on them. I don't know how you do it, but I think that's the smartest way to play against these guys.
That would almost be a kiss of death. I think Pat Mahomes has trailed by 10 points in I think it's 10 or more games he's trailed by 10 points and came back and won. I don't think he's ever lost a game he's trailed by 10 points in.
Streaks are made to be broken.
I hope so, because they have won the last 3 playoff games. So this is the one where we're looking to hopefully come out on the top of. Yeah, we got a super chat. You want to read that from Carl Tommen?
I don't know, my glasses on. Hey, Carl Tommen, thanks for throwing up the super chat. I got to get real close here. Hopefully, both Benford and Rapp will be okay for KC. I didn't go through the injury report. Thanks, Carl. I hope so too.
So it's come out since then that Taylor Rapp obviously went out during the game with that hip thing. He's day-to-day, so the expectation is he probably would play. And then Christian Benford was hurt on the onside kick. The defender that came up and met him face-to-face hit him in the ear hole. So there's an expectation that it's a slight concussion, but he is in protocol.
Okay.
Yeah, I would imagine that all of the doctors around town that are on Twitter are talking about how like the protocol timeline seems to speed up during playoff season.
It is incredibly subjective, Joe. Everybody is different. And I think to say that is probably a little disingenuous. Some guys get a small hit and have a huge concussion. Some guys every game get mashed about the head and have nothing. So I think it's independent of, how hard you're hit or what have you. In your recovery, some people recover faster.
Yeah, and also probably how many times you've been concussed. Maggie is asking about, I believe Maggie is asking about Milano. So while you were traveling, Milano apparently missed the last several plays of the game to include the 2-point conversion. McDermott was asked about it today, and he said he does not know why. So he doesn't know. And they specifically said, is he injured? And he said, I don't know. I have not been told. I don't know what's going on and why Matt missed the last several plays of the game. So that is out there as well. So there's a little bit of a mystery that we've got going on right now. So
a little bit of a mystery, but there's no secret that Dorian Williams actually runs a little bit better than Milano. Maybe his instincts aren't the same yet at this point in time. And if Matt maybe, tweak that leg of his again or something like that, and then you just come off for a play. And I don't think you step back when you put Dorian on the field.
Yeah, and tomorrow on the beat, we'll have Adam Benini from Channel 2 and Sal Moriana. And who knows, maybe they've got some inside information for us, or some information will leak out by tomorrow regarding Matt Milano. But, we'll get that information. But thank you so much for you traveled today, got yourself back home, got your son on a plane to North Carolina, got yourself back home, and still did prep and film breakdown for us, John. You are a machine. You deserve to be. You deserve a nap. I think you need a nap.
I gotta get something to eat. Joe, thanks for hanging out with me this weekend, man. I had a blast.
It was anytime you want to come to town and give me a reason to be out and about is an awesome thing. So yes, please do it more often if you can. Let's see. So what tomorrow? Yes, on the beat, Adam Benini and Sal Moriana, who are the hosts of the Believe in Bills podcast. So our brothers in arms, if you will, on the Believe Network. They actually have the Believe in Bills segment, and then we obviously do the Overreaction piece, which is a part of Believe as well. Wednesday, Hump Day Hotline. Thursday, the Big O Show with Jerry Ostrowski, your first Overreaction preview of this game coming up against the Chiefs. But unless you've got anything else to say, anything to add?
I do not.
Awesome. Well, then for me, for John, for Jerry, we appreciate you guys being in the comment section. We appreciate all the listens, all the comments. We appreciate all the notes, all the interaction on the socials. And we just know Bills Mafia. We appreciate you guys. Happy Victory Monday. One more time for me, for John, for Jerry. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.